So what does the funnel look like for a traditional marketer? This is going to be a marketer's dream, right? You have consumer A, B, and C. We have the awareness to purchase funnel cycle all the way across and on the horizontal. And then you have each journey or each user going through this very linear process of programmatic display, which is considered high funnel, a meta ad or social media ad in general, where our YouTube pre-roll is mid funnel, and then paid search being that conversion tactic. And we all wish that this is exactly how it worked, so that I know that Susie Q went from this great awareness based ad all the way through the paid search cycle. But how it actually works is it's a self journey. So Susie Q and Bobby Joe and Sally may have completely different journeys, right? Susie may start her experience by seeing the traditional display ad, but then she's like, I remember 2 weeks later that I saw this ad. What was that brand called? I go to search and I search for the brand name. And so now I'm in a what would normally be a conversion tactic, but I'm still high funnel. I'm not ready to buy yet. I'm not ready to engage with you in any meaningful way. And so we have this sort of idea of how our tactics should be performing and how they should be interacting with each of our consumers and buyers. And the actual truth is that they're all helping each other. They're all sort of supportive sales tactics. And so we as marketers can fall into the trap of looking at tactical data and saying, well, my display ads aren't working, or my search is really where it's at because I have high conversion there. And the truth is they all are necessary. Now, let's look at how it actually works. So we wish it worked one way. We think it works this way. This is how it actually works. All these points in time that we don't control as marketers at all, a recommendation from an Uber driver or a conversation with a friend or someone going to a store and just happenstance testing a product or picking it up off the shelf, or talking to a mechanic or going to a friend's house and happen to testing something. Those are all interactions that still are supportive of the buyer journey and the buying cycle, but we have very little control over and are also impossible to measure, not in digital advertising anyway. And so when we look at some of our tactics, we can get false positives and false negatives. And it's important as marketers that we keep track of that. So that doesn't look like a funnel. It looks like a messy spider web, weird, untangly thing, something hard, something very difficult to measure and navigate. And we as digital marketers, we will, I will say there's never been a client or anyone that I've worked with that has really figured out how to untangle this spider web in its entirety. It's difficult. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more as to why. So the good news is that we're still moving a prospect from awareness to interest to desire to action. The same funnel that existed in 1898 is largely true today. The bad news is that consumer expectations have changed wildly. Wildly. You can thank Amazon for that in large part. I'll call it the Amazon effect. So some factoids, because we as marketers love our factoids. Bad news. 73% of buyers are now millennials. Millennials are the first group that grew up with the internet. And so if you're a B2B organization, as an example, you can expect that your purchasers are looking for an Amazon-like experience. And to make it worse, they expect a high quality customer experience. And customer experience isn't just their self-navigation online. It's also their experience after you've actually sold them whatever product or service you're trying to sell them. They expect that end-to-end quality experience. And 89% of them expect personalization throughout that journey. So what does that mean? That means that they expect to be able to self-navigate wherever they are in their buying journey in a way that meets their choose your own adventure story. So 89% of them expect that. And 67% of them will switch to another brand that provides a better experience than you do. So that's staggering. So what's the TLDR on this? The TLDR is choose your own adventure books are back, baby. Remember those things? I love those books, right? Those are my favorite. Tom, did you read any choose your own adventure books?
Yeah, only when I had to get so many pages done in a certain week for my reading assignment in elementary school, I would pick those up, and then you can, choose your own adventure, and you end up on page 100 in a couple days instead of having to read 100 pages. So,
Oh, geez, you were that kid. So
yeah.
choose your own adventure books. I'll use the story of Three Little Pigs, right? So Three Little Pigs, it would be like, well, what if they didn't build their house out of like straw and sticks? And what if the big bad wolf never came? And what if this scenario happened for this scenario? And before you know it, you end up in this like you can do this book over and over and over and over and over, and you don't really have a linear path as to how you can end the story, right? Sounds like marketing. Sounds like the story that our consumers go through now. And so we need to understand that our consumers are on their choose their own adventure book by way of interacting with our brands. And to make it worse, and this is the compelling thought that I think every marketer needs to realize, is that on the internet, your competition is not your competition. Your competition is everyone seeking to interact or engage that consumer for their brand, for their product, for their service. And so you're competing with inventory that is atypical than if you're competing against, and say, something narrow like trade pubs. Completely different animal when you're talking about competing in the advertising space or in the digital consumer space online. Your competition is literally everyone. So what's the conclusion? If your competition is everyone, you're gonna need a bigger funnel. That's the conclusion. So what does that mean? You're talking in abstracts, Mark. What am I supposed to do now? Are you telling me it's hopeless? We can't figure this out. It's a tangly web of marketing we weave. No, I'm not saying that. I am saying it's complicated, and there's a lot we should do to get marketing right. We're going to talk about 5 steps, 5 things that we can do as marketers. B2B, B2C, doesn't matter. All these steps apply, or all these tips apply.